March 31st, 2024, Sylmar, Los Angeles. $30 million gone in one Easter night. And the thieves were inside the entire time. GardaWorld was supposed to be impenetrable. Reinforced walls, motion sensors, multiple layers of security designed to protect cash for major banks and corporations across Los Angeles. But this isn't just a story about a heist. It's about a security company with a troubling history of missing money. Alarm systems that cried wolf so many times, police stopped taking them seriously. And a crew sophisticated enough to exploit every single weakness. They cut through the roof, bypassed the vault, vanished with the cash. Nobody knew the money was gone until Monday morning. Nearly 2 years later, not one arrest, not $1 recovered. This is how the largest cash heist in Los Angeles history unfolded, while police drove past 4 times, never realizing they were watching one of the biggest crimes in American history happen right in front of them. Sylmar, California, the northern edge of the San Fernando Valley. About 20 miles north of downtown Los Angeles, Sylmar sits in a quiet industrial corner of the city. Warehouses, distribution centers, businesses that prefer anonymity. It's the perfect place to hide $30 million in cash. On Roxford Street, one industrial building stood out only to those who knew what to look for. From the outside, it looked like any other warehouse. Concrete walls, metal roof, security cameras positioned at standard intervals. But inside this unremarkable building sat one of the most important cash storage facilities in Southern California. GardaWorld, a global security empire. The company had humble beginnings. Founded in Montreal in 1995 by Stéphane Chrétien, who invested just $25,000 to start. By 2024, GardaWorld employed over 130,000 people worldwide. Their business model was straightforward. Banks and major corporations needed secure places to store massive amounts of cash. GardaWorld provided fortified facilities, armored trucks, and professional security guards. How does a company grow from $25,000 to handling billions in cash? Through rapid expansion and aggressive acquisitions. But that explosive growth came at a cost. Corners were cut, protocols were overlooked, warning signs were ignored. The Sylmar facility handled cash for businesses across Southern California. Money arrived in armored trucks throughout the week. Security guards logged every delivery. Workers organized cash on pallets, with each client's money wrapped in protective plastic. The vault was supposed to be impenetrable. Electronic locks, mechanical bolts, security systems designed by engineers who spent their careers thinking about how to stop thieves. Breaking into it should have been impossible. But GardaWorld had a troubled past that made the impossible suddenly feel inevitable. In 2020, the Tampa Bay Times published a 3-part investigation. What it revealed was shocking. Millions of dollars had gone missing from GardaWorld vaults. In 2014, executives discovered approximately $9 million missing. They conducted an internal investigation, but employees reported money continued to disappear for years afterward. One former branch manager told reporters about suspicious orders. His supervisor instructed him to transport coins from Connecticut to Massachusetts. Why? The Massachusetts branch was missing money before a bank audit. They were robbing Peter to pay Paul. Court records showed employees routinely ignoring security protocols. One GardaWorld security guard was sentenced to prison for stealing $390,000 from his own truck. The company also faced safety scrutiny. At least 19 people were killed in GardaWorld crashes since 2008. Former employees reported trucks with unreliable brakes, missing seatbelts. In November 2023, just months before the Easter heist, GardaWorld Cash suffered a data breach. The company's cash management business had been targeted by thieves on many occasions over the years. Some of those criminals had direct ties to the company. In 2012, a GardaWorld insider named Carls Monzon helped orchestrate a massive robbery in Riviera Beach, Florida. In 2022, thieves hit a GardaWorld facility in San Leandro, California. Security industry veteran Jim McGuffey, who held senior positions at Brinks and Loomis, told reporters that GardaWorld came out of nowhere and grew exponentially. The problem with such fast growth, McGuffey said, is that both customer issues and security issues become inevitable. The cash management industry had been hurt by companies taking severe shortcuts, requiring employees to work longer hours, squeezing wages, skimping on personnel. Who pulled off this crime remains unknown, but someone out there had done their homework. The Sylmar facility had its own problems. In the 12 months before Easter 2024, the building triggered over a dozen false alarms. So many false alarms that police began treating every call as routine. Walk the perimeter, check the doors, move on. That pattern would prove fatal. How do you rob a facility holding $30 million without anyone noticing? You don't break the security system, you exploit its weaknesses. Investigators believe the crew spent months studying the Sylmar facility. They knew about the false alarm history. They knew police response patterns. They knew the layout of the building. Security experts told investigators the level of knowledge suggested someone with inside access. Former Los Angeles County Sheriff Jim McDonnell, who now leads the Safe Communities Institute at USC, said what everyone was thinking. This had to be an inside job. The crew needed specialized equipment, industrial-grade cutting tools capable of slicing through reinforced materials, heavy-duty wheeled carts designed to handle extreme weight, industrial-strength straps, large containers that could hold massive quantities of cash without breaking apart. They needed vehicles. Moving $30 million in cash means physically transporting tons of paper currency. $1 million in $100 bills weighs about 22 pounds. 30 million weighs hundreds of pounds. They needed time. The job required hours of careful work, cutting through the roof, bypassing sensors, opening the vault, transferring cash, all while avoiding detection. And they needed patience, perfect timing, perfect execution. They chose Easter Sunday for a reason. Most employees would be home with family. Police patrols would be reduced. Surrounding businesses would be closed. The industrial district would be nearly empty. Religious holidays have long been favorite targets for professional criminals. The 1997 Dunbar armored heist happened on a holiday weekend. The 1983 Brinks Mat robbery in London exploited reduced weekend security. The pattern repeats itself across decades. They chose the middle of the night for the same reason. No witnesses, no traffic, no one walking nearby. But the single most important factor in their plan was the alarm system. Over a dozen false alarms in 12 months had trained police to expect nothing. When alarms triggered, officers would respond with routine checks, walk the perimeter, check the doors, move on. The crew planned to use that exact response against them. Think about that for a second. They bet everything on police treating their break-in as just another false alarm. Would you risk 30 years in prison on that assumption? Drop your prediction in the comments below. And subscribe, because this gamble is about to pay off in ways you won't believe. Now, Easter Sunday begins. March 30th, 2024, Saturday night, 11:30 p.m. The first alarm triggered at the GardaWorld facility. LAPD dispatch received the call. Officers responded. They walked the perimeter, checked doors, shined flashlights through windows. Nothing suspicious. Another false alarm. They marked it routine and left. What they didn't know? Somewhere above them, preparations were already underway. The crew was in position. March 31st, 2024, Easter Sunday, 4:30 a.m. 3 more alarms triggered in rapid succession. Police responded again. 2 patrol cars rolled up to the facility. Officers performed the same checks. Perimeter secure, doors locked, no signs of forced entry. They had no idea that inside the building, one of the largest heists in American history was unfolding in real time. What if one officer had looked up? What if one flashlight beam had caught the roof? The crew breached the facility by cutting through the roof. Industrial-grade equipment capable of slicing through reinforced materials designed to resist exactly this kind of attack. The precision was remarkable. The hole they created was sized perfectly. Large enough to allow human passage, small enough to avoid triggering structural sensors that monitored weight distribution across the roof. Aerial footage captured days later would reveal the full extent of the damage. A significant opening in the roof, clean, professional edges that suggested expert cutting technique. Investigators also found evidence of another breach through the side wall, showing similar precision. The crew hadn't relied on a single entry point. They had planned multiple routes in case their primary access failed. 5 a.m. The thieves were inside. They moved through the facility in complete darkness, navigating the massive warehouse where millions of dollars sat organized in neat rows. Motion sensors swept the corridors in predictable patterns, invisible beams designed to detect any movement. But the thieves had studied these patterns extensively. They knew the timing perfectly. 3 seconds to cross an opening, 5 seconds until the next sensor sweep. Move, stop, move again. Getting to the vault was only half the challenge. The vault itself sat behind multiple layers of security, electronic locks that required specific access codes, mechanical bolts that should have made forced entry impossible, timing sequences designed to lock out anyone attempting access during unauthorized hours. But somehow, the vault opened. How did they crack it? That remains one of the central mysteries of the case. Investigators considered several theories. The crew might have used sophisticated drilling equipment to bypass the mechanical locks. They might have had access to the electronic codes through insider information. They might have used signal jammers and specialized hacking tools to disable the security systems remotely. Whatever method they used, it worked, silently, without triggering additional alarms. By 5:30 a.m., the thieves were standing inside a room containing $30 million in cash. The sight inside the vault would have stopped anyone in their tracks. Cash was stacked from floor to ceiling, organized on pallets in neat, intimidating rows. Each bundle wrapped in protective plastic and banded by denomination, stacks of hundreds, 20s, 10s. This was money belonging to banks and corporations across Southern California. Weekend revenues from restaurants, retail stores, and entertainment venues. Saturday transactions waiting for Monday processing. All of it was sitting in one room, completely unguarded, waiting to be taken. The crew worked with methodical efficiency, moving cash from the vault in a carefully choreographed operation. They passed bundles from person to person, hand to hand, creating a human conveyor belt. Bundle by bundle, pallet by pallet, the cash flowed out of the vault and into their containers. Each bundle weighed several pounds. Each pallet weighed hundreds of pounds. Moving $30 million meant physically transporting tons of paper currency. They had brought specialized equipment for exactly this purpose. Heavy-duty wheeled carts, industrial-strength straps, large containers that could hold massive quantities of cash without breaking apart under the stress. By 6 a.m., they were halfway through emptying the vault. One resident of the adjacent Tahitian mobile home park woke to an unusual sound, a mechanical whirring, steady, continuous, the kind of sound that shouldn't be happening at 6 in the morning on Easter Sunday. She listened. The sound came from the GardaWorld facility. She considered calling police, but the facility made noises sometimes, trucks arriving, equipment running. Maybe it was normal. She went back to sleep. What if she had called? The whirring continued. It lasted at least 2 hours. The sound of industrial equipment, cutting tools, machinery moving heavy loads, the sounds of a heist that should have drawn attention but somehow didn't. 6:30 a.m., police drove past the facility again. Routine patrol, an officer checking businesses in the industrial district. He glanced at the GardaWorld building. Looked normal, dark, quiet from the street. He had no idea that inside, behind reinforced walls, one of the largest thefts in American history was approaching completion. The officer continued his patrol, turned the corner, disappeared down San Fernando Road. Inside, the crew kept working. 7 a.m. Final loads. The vault was nearly empty. What had been millions of dollars on pallets was now open space, bare floor, discarded wrapping, evidence of systematic removal. The crew moved toward the extraction point, the sidewall breach they had cut hours earlier. One by one, containers went through the opening, out of the building, into whatever vehicles waited outside. 7:30 a.m. They were gone. The facility sat silent, the roof breach open to the morning sky, the sidewall gaping. But from the street, nothing visible. Someone driving past would see nothing unusual, just another industrial building in Sylmar, just another business closed for Easter Sunday. Inside, the vault stood empty. $30 million vanished. By sunrise, the crew had disappeared. Where do you hide $30 million? How do you transport it without being seen? The crew had answers. They had planned every detail. They had beaten security systems designed to be unbeatable. They had outsmarted police officers who drove past 4 times. They had pulled off the impossible. But how long could their freedom last? Monday morning, April 1st, 2024. The first GardaWorld employee arrived for work with her usual Monday morning coffee. She expected another routine day of processing cash for businesses across Southern California. She badged through the main entrance and walked through the warehouse. Something felt wrong. The space felt emptier than it should. She approached the vault area. The massive door stood in its normal position. Company protocol dictated that the vault should be sealed at all times, opened only by authorized personnel during specific hours under strict supervision. She stepped inside and looked around. The vault was empty. Every single pallet was bare. Protective wrapping was scattered across the floor like confetti. $30 million that had been sitting in this room on Friday was simply gone. Her reaction was immediate. She called for security guards. They came running and confirmed what she was seeing. The vault had been completely cleaned out. By noon, federal agents had swarmed the facility. FBI agents, LAPD detectives, crime scene technicians, all trying to understand how this could have happened. The investigation began with basic questions. How did they get in? How did they know about the $30 million? How did they move that much cash without anyone noticing? The roof breach was obvious once investigators looked. A large opening cut through reinforced materials with remarkable precision. The clean edges suggested professional cutting technique and access to industrial equipment. The sidewall showed evidence of another breach. Successful, large enough for extraction, positioned strategically to avoid street visibility. But the vault presented the biggest mystery. Opening it required specific knowledge, security codes, understanding of locking mechanisms, the kind of information that shouldn't be available to outsiders. Someone either had inside knowledge or sophisticated technology capable of bypassing multiple security layers. Former FBI Special Agent in Charge, Robert Clark, told reporters what investigators were focusing on. They would try to determine who had access to the facility, who knew the schedule, who knew the money would be there. The list of people with that knowledge was small, very small. One unnamed GardaWorld employee spoke to reporters. "This is mind-blowing bad," the employee said. "You would never suspect it. $30 million in the valley, gone. How? Why?" The employee added something revealing. He had no idea there was so much cash inside the Sylmar facility. If employees didn't know about the $30 million, how did the thieves? The FBI and LAPD formed a joint task force, over 200 agents and officers. The team brought specialists in financial crime, electronic surveillance, behavioral analysis, and criminal profiling. They started with the basics, interviewing everyone who had access to the facility. Some employees seemed nervous, others had unexplained absences around Easter. Some had debts that could have made them vulnerable to recruitment. But there was no smoking gun, no confession, no evidence strong enough to make an arrest. Investigators dug deeper into GardaWorld's history. The 2014 disappearance of $9 million, the Tampa Bay Times investigation from 2020, the troubling pattern of insider theft stretching back years. Could the Easter heist have been orchestrated by someone who had worked at GardaWorld in the past? Someone with detailed knowledge of the facility, who had left the company months or years earlier? Investigators reviewed months of security footage from neighboring businesses and traffic cameras. They found patterns, vehicles appearing days before the heist, black SUVs circling the block, license plates traced to rentals paid for with cash or stolen credit cards. Dead ends designed to prevent tracking. The alarm history became a major focus. Over a dozen false alarms in 12 months. GardaWorld's alarm system had a documented history of problems. When thieves triggered 4 separate alarms on Easter Sunday, police responded with routine checks each time. The thieves had counted on that exact response. Investigators contacted informants in criminal networks across Southern California. Anyone talking about $30 million? Anyone suddenly flush with cash? Silence. Either the thieves were incredibly disciplined, or they had connections that kept information locked down tight. The FBI brought in specialists from Quantico to profile the crew. Their assessment was sobering. This was the work of professionals who had likely pulled off major crimes before. Finding them would require either a massive mistake or an unexpected breakthrough. Weeks turned into months. The task force followed every lead. Nothing connected to the Easter heist. The money had simply vanished. Investigators compared the case to the 1997 Dunbar armored robbery. 6 men stole $19 million from a facility in downtown Los Angeles. That case was solved when Alan Pace, a regional safety inspector who led the crew, was caught through a money laundering scheme after 2 years on the run. The Easter heist surpassed Dunbar by over $10 million. But unlike Dunbar, no arrests have been made, no suspects publicly identified. The investigation continues, but leads remain frustratingly limited. The money itself presented an enormous challenge. $30 million in cash is difficult to hide, spend, or launder. Large deposits trigger treasury reports. The crew would need sophisticated infrastructure or the patience to wait years before spending it. 8 months after the heist, in December 2024, the case remained unsolved. 1 year after the heist, in March 2025, still no arrests. By April 2026, 2 years after Easter Sunday, the investigation was still active, but the trail had gone cold. The thieves, whoever they were, had successfully disappeared. The heist exposed vulnerabilities in an industry that operates mostly invisible to the public. Cash logistics companies handle billions of dollars. They store it in facilities most people never see. When security fails, the consequences are catastrophic. GardaWorld faced particular scrutiny. The Tampa Bay Times investigation from 2020 returned to public discussion. $9 million missing in 2014. Employees reporting continued disappearances. Trucks with safety issues. Fatal crashes. Data breaches. The pattern suggested systemic problems. Not just one bad security guard or unfortunate accident. Deep organizational issues that created opportunities for both internal theft and external attack. Security consultant Jeffrey Zwern, who has spent over 40 years in the field, called the Roxford Street building a high-risk burglary and robbery premise. Such a property should include 2 separate alarm systems whose signals are transmitted to different security command centers. Sensors that can detect radio frequency signal jammers. Motion-sensing cameras that would alert personnel to the presence of people on the roof. The security system has to be constantly tested, Zwern said, probably on a monthly basis, to make sure everything works. The inside knowledge question haunts investigators to this day. Very few people would have known about the huge sums of cash in that vault. That limited pool of suspects should have made the case easier to solve. But years later, no arrests. Either the inside person was someone investigators never suspected, or the thieves were sophisticated enough to gather intelligence without any internal help. The GardaWorld facility in Sylmar continued operations after the heist. Workers repaired the roof breach and patched the sidewall. Reinforced security systems were installed. Armored trucks still arrive daily. But the vault will always carry the memory of Easter Sunday, 2024. The night someone proved that even the most secure facilities can be breached. The heist has been compared to the biggest thefts in American history. The 1978 Lufthansa heist in New York, the 1997 Dunbar armored robbery, the 2009 Pierre Hotel diamond theft. But unlike those famous cases, where perpetrators were eventually caught, the Sylmar crew remains at large. Their discipline has been extraordinary. No bragging, no flashy spending, no mistakes that investigators could exploit. That silence itself tells investigators something. Whoever pulled off this heist understood the fundamental rule of professional crime. The job doesn't end when you leave the vault. It ends when everyone involved dies without ever telling anyone what happened. Most criminals fail that test. They talk to girlfriends. They brag in bars. They spend money in ways that draw attention. But not these thieves. Not yet. Investigators note that most successful heist crews eventually make one fatal mistake. They buy property in cash. They deposit large sums into bank accounts that trigger treasury reports. They tell the wrong person in a moment of weakness. The Sylmar crew has avoided all of these traps, so far. The investigation remains open. Somewhere, $30 million is either hidden or being carefully laundered. Somewhere, the thieves are either celebrating or looking over their shoulders, wondering if today is the day someone talks. If today is the day an informant decides the reward money is worth more than loyalty. For now, they remain free. The money remains missing. Remember the security experts who said the facility was impossible to rob without inside help? They were probably right about one thing. Somebody knew too much. But that person has stayed silent for almost 2 years now, either out of fear, loyalty, or because they got their share and disappeared, just like the money. One Easter Sunday, $30 million, 4 hours of work, 2 years of silence. This is how the largest cash heist in Los Angeles history happened while police drove past 4 times. Not because the thieves were invisible, but because everyone had stopped listening to the alarms. The vault sits in Sylmar. The investigation continues, and the biggest question remains unanswered. Who pulled off the impossible? And how long can they stay invisible? And that brings us to the end of our story. If you liked it, don't forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so you can receive new videos.